Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Everything is Bad New Fangled Motion Picture Show.
That's right, everyone. We are finally back with another episode of the Everything is Bad New Fangled Motion Picture Show. I'm your host, Niall.
I'm Nolan.
And today we are going to be reviewing, I think, the only Korean War movie I've ever seen.
Except MASH.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Except for MASH. That would be Devotion. So before we get into that, I'm just going to let you know we're going to do our usual spoiler-free review. And then we will give you a spoiler warning and go more in-depth into the movie after that. Like we normally do. So, yeah, other than MASH, but MASH was like set during the Korean War, but it was a commentary on the Vietnam War, right?
I guess.
Or something. I don't remember. I've seen the movie once. Very totally different from the show. But yeah, so Devotion, which is, just want to throw this out there, a terrible name for a movie. Not that it's not like, not in a way that it's like not appropriate or whatever. It's just such a generic whatever blah name. We could never remember the name of this movie when we were talking about it.
Well,
to us, it was always that Korean War movie.
So, the film rights to this come from adapting a biography on one of the characters, and that was the title of the biography.
Yeah, but they should have changed that for the movie.
Yeah,
like we could, whenever we were talking about it, we'd be like, "Hey, when does that Korean War movie come out? Hey, do you want to see that Korean War movie this weekend?"
Yeah, it's not a punchy name.
Definitely
that's for sure.
So yeah, like I don't know. Anyways, but the movie itself is pretty decent. It's really long.
Like 2.5 hours, something like that.
Yeah, but like I don't know, it felt long, which is worse than it actually just being long.
I guess. I don't know what you would really cut.
I don't either. Like they already cut out like what was it, like 20 flight missions.
Yeah, so
like
in the movie they only show 2 combat missions, but by the time where the movie wraps up, they'd flown like 20 in real life.
Yeah,
which is a pretty good amount of combat missions.
That is a lot of combat missions for a fighter pilot.
Yeah.
I mean the movie's cool. Like I think it's interesting how they show like the post-war mentality of like people in the military.
Just so everyone knows, this movie is about Jesse Brown, who was the first naval aviator, or black naval aviator.
Yeah.
So that's the big focus of the movie.
Yeah. So but yeah, so like what I thought was interesting is how they show like the mentality of the people in the Navy post World War II, or in the military in general, I guess. This idea of like, oh yeah, like I volunteered during the war, and then by the time I got like through training, the war was over.
Right.
And so these pilots feel like kind of cheated at their chance of
like one character talked about like he finished flight school like a week after the war ended or something like that, or
yeah, it was like really close to the end of the war.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting, like them just talking about that and seeing something I found interesting too is how like the one of the big focuses of the movie is that like they get issued these Corsairs, these like new like refit Corsairs, which is a a plane very heavily associated with World War II, but it was also the primary Navy fighter during the Korean War. And so a big part of that is them like adapting to these new planes because they're big, they're way more powerful, and they have things about them that can make them difficult to fly.
Right, like if you gun the engine too rapidly, the torque will flip the plane over.
Yeah. So
which is something you might not realize is a problem, but it's, with a single prop plane, that can happen.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that was I don't know, just like kind of interesting seeing that aspect of it, of that they show in this movie. But yeah, like that was a big thing was like the pilots being unsure about, because they have to be able to land these Corsairs on a aircraft carrier to be able to go on this deployment, and like the pilots are concerned whether or not they can do it because like the nose is very difficult to see past on the Corsair. It's a very big, powerful plane. So, but otherwise, yeah, like the movie's pretty decent, pretty good. It's got a 7 out of 10 on IMDb right now. I'd say it's about right.
Yeah,
about where I'd put it.
Yeah,
I like the actors.
Right, and it you might have guessed it also deals with some race relations.
Yeah, so
in the movie. It's a 1950 is when it's set.
Yeah, and
right at the start of the Korean War. And
yeah,
like I said, the first, and at that time, only black naval aviator.
Right. Yeah, so this Jesse Brown guy, too, like, he's, he definitely, he's feeling a lot of stress because, like, he can't, like, he knows he can't mess up.
Yeah.
Because, like, he knows that there are people that would just find a reason to drum him out anyway, but so like there's a lot of stress, and like he feels, you can tell he feels that when like the crew of the carrier they're on, the Lady, like or talking to him and saying how much it means to them that he's there and he's a naval aviator and all this.
Yeah. One thing that was interesting is he never had to deal with it from his squadron.
Yeah.
They were all welcoming, but it was other...
It was like the Marines on board.
Yeah, or other crew or whatever.
Yeah.
But never from a squadron, so you didn't have to deal with that. One thing I'll say is this movie looks better than Midway.
Yeah.
So, like, sometimes in Midway, there was a lot more combat scenes in Midway, but... Yes. There were times you're just like,
this is so very clearly
CG, but in this movie it's a lot better.
So did you look up to see if they had like actual Corsairs for filming this movie? Because I don't know, and there's those planes they start out in the movie in, and, like, I'm pretty sure they actually had 2 of those flying.
I think they did. When I was kind of looking at some pictures, they showed someone like in Jesse Brown's plane. You can see because it says Ensign Jesse Brown under the cockpit.
Yeah.
But there was someone who obviously was not the actor. It was looked like it was a real
the person
pilot
doing the stunt flying.
Yeah, the person actually doing the flying. So I think they did have a couple Corsairs.
Yeah.
I haven't read up to verify that, but I think they did.
So Glenn Powell is an executive producer on this?
Oh, yeah?
Is that what? There's like a video that's auto-playing on... I have IMDb open here. It's like auto-playing up here.
Mm-hmm.
And it came up and it was like, Glenn Powell, executive producer.
I wonder if they used any similar techniques as like Top Gun Maverick did to get like them in the cockpit.
Oh, yeah.
Or anything.
I'm
curious. But my guess is they probably had a couple Corsairs that they duplicated for the shots where they needed more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they didn't have a whole squadron's worth.
No, definitely not. I've seen one of them function up close. It's a very big plane.
Yeah, when you don't even like think about it, but whenever there's a shot of someone standing on the ground next to one,
or like on the wing while they're climbing in it or something.
right, and you realize like, oh, the bottom of the fuselage is like head height.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. So. But yeah, no, it looked good. This isn't a spoiler, but there's a scene in the trailer where they're dogfighting a MiG. And that whole scene was pretty cool, and like, it was like, yeah, they were able to make reference to like some earlier stuff in the movie and whatnot. So
yeah, all the callbacks.
Yep. And a Chekhov's gun.
Yeah,
got utilized.
Yeah, I kind of wish they'd done something to imply that there were a lot more combat missions being flown. They don't have to show them, but like.
Yeah, well, in the movie, it is actually implied that that where the movie ends is only his second combat flight in theater.
Right, but it was really like 20 something.
Yeah, so yeah, they could have done a montage or something.
Yeah. Maybe they did and they cut it out for time.
Maybe.
The movie's over 2 hours, so.
Yeah. I will say this about it though. It is. And like, I mean, it's inspired by true events, is what it said at the beginning.
Yeah.
But it is fairly predictable. Like there was stuff we were calling like the first 15 minutes of the movie. They were like, "Oh yeah, so this is gonna come up later." Like, "Oh, that's gonna be a thing."
Yeah. Well, that's how movies are, though. You see enough movies, and you can start calling things.
Yeah. So. You got anything else to say?
Nah, it's a pretty decent movie.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. Probably a better movie than that Avatar sequel is gonna be.
Yeah,
that's next weekend, right?
Is it that soon?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I guess we're gonna see it, but I'm just not that excited about it. Yeah. Like I've been saying all along, if it had come out like 10 years ago or something, that would have been one thing.
10 years. That's the first Avatar.
But it's been longer than that, I think.
Jeez. Remember all the people? There was like all the people suffering like depression because they knew they would never be able to see Pandora.
Avatar came out in 2009.
Yeah, that's too long.
Yeah.
Anyway, you got anything else then?
Nah.
All right. So spoiler section.
Yep.
Yeah, so the Chekhov's hat.
Oh yeah,
that was one of the things that was like very early on. Like
so if Glenn
Powell's character drops this watch cap, this like knit cap
mm-hmm.
on the ground, and while he's walking out to the plane on his first day in the squadron, and Jesse picks up the hat and asks him about it, and he's like, "Oh, it's part of the kit. You never know when you'll need it." And I was like,
"Yeah," but he's like, "Why bother wearing that? Because it's so warm."
Right? He's like, "It's part of the kit. You never know when you'll need it." I was like, that's going to come up later.
Although they apparently shot that barbecue scene in winter because everyone's breath was visible.
Well, it was a clam bake, right?
Yeah, but I mean, still, everyone's breath was visible at night.
It's just night. Like, how cold is it in Rhode Island typically?
I don't know. But if you're going to, like, call someone out for having their watch cap, you assume it's warm.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, there's just like a lot of stuff like that like we're calling.
They were shooting in Georgia anyway.
Yeah. Well, and like when they mentioned the thing about the torque flipping the engine or flipping the plane over from the torque on the engine, I was like, yeah, well, that's someone's gonna do that. Someone's like gonna die because they do that incorrectly.
Yeah.
You know, Jesse Brown had a wife and kid at home. You knew he was gonna die. I mean, come on.
I mean, if you know who he was going into the movie and you knew his story, you knew he was gonna die. So yeah, he dies. In Korea, his plane takes a hit and it starts spewing oil, and so doesn't make it back. He crash lands and is trapped by the wreckage, and so Glenn Powell's character purposely crashes his plane so he can go rescue him, but they can't get him out of the wreckage and he's forced to abandon him there when the rescue helicopter comes and they can't get him out.
Well, he dies.
He dies. They're not able to get him out before he dies.
Yeah. And he puts the watch cap on him because it's Korea and it's cold.
Yeah.
Like, if there's one thing.
Well, he was still alive when he put the watch cap on.
Right, he was still alive when he put the watch cap on him. But yeah, like Korea, cold.
In the mountains. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was like that was the chosen reservoir, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, which is, if you know anything about the Korean War, you know of the frozen chosen, and how it was like basically the coldest place that the Marines have ever fought, right?
Yeah.
Probably. So yeah, the scene with the MiG though. So like one thing that was weird to me is they were when Jesse's plane goes down, the leader of their squadron tells Glenn Powell's character, he's like, "Hey, when he clears the wreckage, scuttle the plane. We can't let a Corsair fall into enemy hands." I was like, "Why?"
Yeah.
Like
they have jets.
They have MiGs. Like what? Why can they not have a Corsair? I mean, you worried the Russians are going to get a hold of your prop plane?
Right. I mean, near the end of the war, U.S. had some jet, right? It was like a.
At the end of the Korean War?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Thunderjet. I think that's what that thing was called. But yeah, the Russians famous for having I'm gonna say like first effective deployment of jets in combat, because the Nazis technically had the first like jet fighter plane, but it was not like deployed. I think by the time they invented it, they just didn't have the manufacturing to make it. But yeah, so that was a little weird though when he's like, "Oh, you can't let a Corsair fall into enemy hand." I'm like,
apparently the F-86 Sabre.
Sabre.
Yeah.
Okay. They never scuttled those planes.
Right. Well, at the end, they sent a mission out to scuttle the plane.
Oh yeah, that's right. Which Glenn Powell's character couldn't go on. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the Thunderjet was made in the 40s, so it actually existed before the Korean War. But again, I just think we didn't have many of them, and I think the Army had all of them. But yeah, so I don't know.
Anything else to spoil? Well, I mean, it talks about because at the end, Glenn Powell he gets back and he's given a Medal of Honor for that mission.
Mm-hmm.
Which we're also seems a little extreme. Like I said, because Jesse Brown got
you gotta remember, like the Korean War was a very unpopular, unwanted war back home. Yeah. They needed publicity,
right? And Jesse Brown got a posthumous Distinguished Flying Medal or something.
Yeah, I think so. Distinguished Flying Cross.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like the thing at the end saying how like the grandkids of Jesse and Tom,
they're still friends.
They're friends with each other, and
yeah,
their families are still really close.
Apparently, they stayed. Yeah, when he got back, they stayed close.
Yeah, so that was cool.
Yeah. There was a frigate named after Jesse Brown.
And you said like a missile destroyer or something named after Tom
Yeah,
Hubner?
so that was commissioned in like 2017, but the one for Jesse Brown operated from like the 70s through the 90s and then was sold to Egypt.
So I had asked you if that was a littoral combat ship.
Oh, I don't know.
You didn't go and look that up?
I didn't go look that up, no.
Okay. Yeah. Got anything else?
No.
Okay. What's the next movie we're seeing, Nolan? Take a guess.
Avatar?
I fear you're correct. Um, probably, yeah, probably Avatar. Um, then what's like? Is that the only other movie we're seeing this year?
Must have been something else in December.
So there's that Babylon movie with Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie.
Oh yeah. When's that?
That's the weekend of Christmas.
Hmm.
So maybe we'll see that. Otherwise, yeah, what do we got here? Oof, yeah, there's nothing else the rest of the year. Oh, is this that next Guy Ritchie movie? Yeah, Operation Fortune. Where's Daguerre?
Alrighty.
It's Guy Ritchie, so you know it's got Jason Statham in it.
There's been one or two that haven't had you. He wasn't in Aladdin.
True, he wasn't in Man from U.N.C.L.E., right?
No, he wasn't in the. Was it The Gentleman? Is that what that movie's called?
Yeah, he wasn't in that.
Jason Statham?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, that other guy that's in a bunch of his movies though. Wasn't that
The one that was in the
Arthur movie?
The Arthur movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't remember his name.
Charlie something?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Anyway, so yeah, that's like probably it's got Hugh Grant in it.
He was in The Gentleman.
Yep. So that's probably the next movie that like I'm excited to see. Just because I'm always excited for a new Guy Ritchie movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like stuff's finally getting back to like how it was pre-COVID BS. Like I think we're getting past that like that chunk of no movies getting made. Yeah. Well, we gotta wait till like March before it looks like there's gonna be a lot of stuff. Because that's right now, anyway, assuming nothing gets delayed. That's got Cocaine Bears in February. Creed 3, Shazam 2, John Wick 4, Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, which is the third Dungeons and Dragons movie.
I think the fourth, actually.
Fourth. Looks like it's gonna be the first good one.
Yeah, it looks actually fun.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Pine can like carry a movie.
That's true.
He's charismatic enough for it. And then in April we got Super Mario Brothers. Oh yeah, in April is also Renfield, starring Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult.
Yes.
And God help us, Aquafina. In Renfield. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Looks like stuff's finally getting decent again. So look forward to all of that and go to the movies, please. Like I haven't been to I think we've been in like one full movie theater in like the last 3 months.
Yeah, to be fair, when we saw this was a Monday night.
True, I wasn't expecting this one to be full, but this movie not doing super great, I think.
Yeah, I guess it's getting decent reviews, but nobody cares.
The trailer was not the best.
Yeah.
I think part of it is there's not a lot of like actual action scenes in this movie, so there's not a lot of action to cut an interesting trailer from.
Right.
So, but yeah, so if any of that upcoming stuff sounds interesting to you, come back and check that out. Also, go back and check out our previous reviews. Nolan, what was our last review?
Black Adam.
Black Adam. We're definitely going to review Renfield.
Oh, yeah.
So, I guess until next time, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Toodles.